Go to heaven? Whoa, what a great question we have for today. Do good people go to heaven? What a great question. But before we get there, I want to write to you and talk to you concerning the book of James, chapter 2, verses 14 through 26. So in this section, we see the brother of Jesus, James, start addressing the issue of good people in heaven through the vein of good works and faith. So what is James telling us but that the two are not separate, but in fact they coexist? So he says this: what good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but he does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed, lacking in daily food, and one of you says, well, go in peace, be warm and be filled, but without giving them the things that they needed for their body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, it does not have works, it's dead. But if someone will say, you have faith and I have works, I will say, show me your faith apart from your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one, so you do well. But guess what? Even the demons believe and shudder. Do you want to be shown that you foolish person that set apart from works is useless? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up his son Isaac on the altar? So you see that faith was active along with his works, and thereby faith was completed by his works. And the scriptures is fulfilled that says Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteous, and he was called a friend of God. You see that a person justified by works and not by faith alone. And in the same way, was not also Rahab the prostitute justified by the works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? For as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also is faith apart from works is dead. You see, in this passage, there are three things that you need to understand. The first thing that you need to understand comes from the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, we understand that the Old Testament was used to tell the history of Israel, but more specifically, God used it to foretell of his son Jesus. Consider in Genesis 3 and how the fall would lead to the foreshadowing of the coming salvation. So here we see that James's point to Abraham and Rahab, they are both examples of faith being the thing that rewards them, yet an action was always preceded by the accompanying faith. So that's what we see in the Old Testament. Number two, we understand what is faith. So faith is a belief in something that we cannot see, but because of that belief, it will lead us to an action that is in accordance to the belief. So when someone says they believe in something, but they live a life that says they believe otherwise, should we believe their words or believe their actions? Actions speak louder than words, and because of that, let's go on to our next point. So number two, understand the word faith, and understand number three, the word works. Works are actions that come from a person's motive and inspiration. Therefore, a person can do great things, but with the wrong motive and or wrong inspiration. So this is why it's so important for us not to disconnect the aspect of our faith, and especially why it's important that we ask the question, do good people go to heaven? And that leads us to a question today: do good people go to heaven? And the answer is no, good people do not go to heaven. The reason why is that there is no such thing as a good person. A good person is reflected to us by someone who does not cheat on their taxes or their spouse and maybe works a full-time job, while a good person in the eyes of God is someone who is spotless before him, and there's just simply no one like that. Instead, we are all flawed people. No one in their right mind would say that we are good in comparison to God. Now, we might say that we're good in comparison to, say, call a pimp, but not to God. However, there are some so-called bad people that are better people than you or me because of the ways that we seem to measure what the heck a good person is. So the question that it comes down to is not what is good, but who is good. And the answer is only that God is the only one who is good, and therefore I cannot be good. And because of this, I need a Savior. The reason why we want to believe this is that our hope is somehow connected to our good works, and so somehow outweigh our bad ones, and so therefore we can make it to heaven. The problem with that is that our thinking is flawed because God is a judge, not based on karma, but based upon good and right, wrong and evil. So no one in their right mind would drink a glass of water if it only had one drop of poop in it, because it's only 99.9% pure. So why would we expect heaven to be any different when it's 100% pure? We need a Savior, not a good moral resume. And if you want a relationship with Jesus, then please hit me up. I can certainly help with that. But in the meantime, I want to thank you for listening or watching in this Sojourner Radio, where we're trying to help people not to live just for this world, but for the world to come. So remember, we are made for eternity and not just for the here and now. And so you make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, YouTube channel, and or Facebook and Instagram. So you can go to our website right now, sojourner.church, to get more information on what we're trying to do by planting this church. But in the meantime, stay tuned to tomorrow's episode when we're asking the question, how do the words that we speak affect the way that we think and affect the way that we feel? Should be a good one. You guys take care. Be blessed. See you then.